Okay, great. And I think we've started to get a couple of attendees join. So thank you everybody for being here today for our workshop session. We are hosting a panel discussion today as part of the Women Automotive Network, and it is brought to you by AkzoNobel. And we will be busting the myths of women in sales and striving to create a gender balanced workforce. It's great to see so many familiar names in the chat box, and also some new faces as well. Just before we get started, I would like to say, if possible, please put your cameras on so we can all see each other. Once I get through the first couple of slides, then it will just be an open discussion and there won't be any slides, so I will be able to see everybody's face and it'll create a nice atmosphere. There will be a lot of opportunity for discussion, interaction, but until that point, it would be great if you can all put yourselves on mute, just so that the speakers have the floor with no distraction, and we can have a great conversation before we let you join in. So yeah, without further ado, I will start the main part of the presentation. So your speakers today, who are we and what do we do? My name is Lucy Cater. I'm based in the UK. I am the market support specialist in our automotive and specialty coatings business unit, and I've been with AkzoNobel for 6 years, and I'm thrilled to say that I am your host and moderator for today's session. And yeah, over to you ladies to just give a brief introduction about who you are, because I don't want to speak on your behalf.
Okay, I continue. My name is Christine Stutz. I'm the Regional Marketing Manager EMEA, located in Stuttgart, Germany, and I've been with AkzoNobel 28 years.
Hi everyone, I'm Shannon Dudor. I'm our North American Strategic Sales Manager. I'm based in South Florida in the United States, and I've been with AkzoNobel for 5 years. And I'm looking forward to the workshop and really excited for the discussion.
Hello, I'm Karen Daniels. I'm a Regional Sales Manager based in the UK. I am one of 7 Regional Sales Managers. The rest of my team are male.
Great. Well, you'll have a lot of stories to share then, Karen. Great. Thank you, ladies. It is a pleasure to be with you all today. I would just like to mention as well, I am presenting in full screen, so I can't see anybody or anything that's going on in the chat. So if there is anything, please just interrupt. But just before we get into the whole session and the workshop itself, we want to start by setting the scene and explaining why did we come up with this workshop title? What does this workshop really mean? And sort of the reason that we're all here today, and why you'll hear from these 3 amazing women. So just to start with some statistics and just to share some insight really around sort of female leadership and actually just diversity in general and how it supports business growth and business success. So it's no surprise, we've all seen the research that companies and organizations that are more diverse, whether that be with gender or through ethnic diversity, they generally top the leaderboard when it comes to higher financial results, better ESG ratings, and actually internally as well foster a much more supportive work culture, and actually are able to attract and retain top talent more than those companies which don't have a diverse senior leadership team and executive board. So what you can see here is just some of the statistics from McKinsey and different consultancy groups who have done a lot of this research. And actually what's interesting is you still see that generally speaking across multiple industries, women are still underrepresented in commercial roles versus support functions. And I've lost my mouse. There we go. And so what does this really mean then from a capability perspective? This is a really interesting slide because actually you see from a lot of this research that women do also have the skill set which complements working in a commercial role or a sales position. And actually we are, as women, well suited to these positions. And that doesn't mean to say that men don't have some of the same skill sets as women of being able to build relationships based on empathy, or being able to find common ground, or being honest and ethical, as the top bar suggests. It actually means that we have very complementary skill sets, and it should be around organizations being able to leverage those skills and those capabilities of their workforce to actually become high performing organizations. And I think that's a really interesting point as to sort of why we're here, and being able to set the scene for some of the conversation that we'll have as we go through the workshop. So then if we sort of look to the future and where the world of work and commercial organisations are heading, research also suggests that future leadership will require more diverse experience that actually does suit men and women's skills just as much as each other. And actually, if we take this into consideration, we do need more women to take sales or commercial positions to be able to progress companies at the rate in which the world is changing and what consumers expect in terms of society and how we view society compared to in previous years. But with that said, there still seems to be a lack of women at the top. And maybe I'm giving some insight into the answer of the poll question here. But there still seems to be a disparity between men and women when it comes to women in leadership and diverse senior leaders. So with that, if you haven't already done so, please can you take the next couple of minutes to read the poll question and share your thoughts on what the answer might be. I will read it out. How many of the 2022 Fortune 500 companies are currently led by female CEOs? A, 37, B, 50, I think it's 52, and C, 98, if my memory serves me correctly. And I can't see the screen, so if anybody can see what results are coming in and share that with me, that would be much appreciated.
So, Lucy, we have 7 votes for 37. This is now 10 votes, 83%, and 2 votes for 52. So nobody actually voted for the 98.
Oh, well, either you're all cynical or you have seen this research before and actually know the answer. But maybe unsurprisingly then to the audience, the correct answer is 37. Which did surprise me when we're looking at the top 500 companies in the US. And okay, great news, it is higher than in 2020 and also last year, but also quite startling to see that it's still such a low number. And actually, looking at the research, there's an interesting, I suppose, conversation to be had around, well, if the skill sets marry up to these positions and there are more women entering the workforce than ever before, why is there still such a gap in the number of women in commercial roles such as sales, and also then taking on that next step to becoming a senior leader? And sort of an interesting question that I'd like to put to the audience and to you as panelists of why do we think that inequality still exists? And based on that, I suppose there are a number of reasons, and I'm sure that we will talk about some of them today, and we'd love to hear from the audience for their thoughts as well. But in terms of sort of this workshop and where we've built this from, I wonder if it's to do with misconceptions around sales and the perception that comes with these commercial positions, and especially when you get into industries like ours that are typically male dominated, whether that be from a paints and coatings perspective or within the automotive industry itself. And this is sort of the main part of our workshop around sort of busting some of these misconceptions, talking about them, sharing your own experience of these perceptions, and if actually this could play a small role in why there is still an inequality between women taking on more commercial positions and definitely senior leadership roles. So with that, I'd like to stop sharing my screen and come back to everybody who's in the workshop, and then start to hear from our panellists and go into sort of the main part of the discussion. But whilst I just sort of get my screen sorted, are any of you, Shannon, Karen, Christine, surprised by that number from the poll question, and also surprised by the results that you see from the people that are in our workshop today?
Look, from my side, I really expected that everybody is relatively clear that we are not there yet. And I think we heard it also from Penny, who really said there needs to be, or change takes time, and we need to be patient. And I believe this is really here the case. And I think this is valid for all the positions and all the roles that companies have. Yeah, we will see this changing now over the time.
Yeah, definitely. And well, I suppose as you started the conversation, Christine, I'll come to you first, just to share a little bit about your own experience in your career and how many different roles you've done, because you are our regional marketing manager now, but you have taken on more commercial roles from a sales perspective previously, and I'd love you to share some of that experience, please. Yeah,
actually, 28 years of experience. So I had various roles. We have also really, as a company, adapted to the different changes also in the industry. So there was a lot of opportunity to take also new opportunities from my side. When I look back really to the early beginnings, after my studies, I did assistant role. But already at that time, I was sitting only with men. Yes, the leading sales manager of Germany in one room, and they also expected that I would deliver the coffee. Yeah, so this was a little bit the starting point, and I said, yeah, I'm not there for coffee, but as it's here in Stuttgart, then I believe I'm the host, and then of course I'm happy to serve you, because I would do it with all guests also at home. Yeah, so you need sometimes to find also a little bit the way to mitigate the discussions. And then with 26, I really did my first customer-facing role. I got the offer to be for our AKO Selected program, the business consultant. Went to customers 4 days a week, really traveling overnight, every night in a different hotel. And this was really the first challenge then coming up.
And what was your experience of that from I'm going to go with it, but a gender perspective of being the first woman to have taken on such a role? And did you find it more difficult to manage that internally or externally when actually visiting those customers? What is your experience of that?
I would say the first challenge was internally, not in all cases, but of course, if you have such a challenge, you listen to every single word. So I had literally really people who said to me, you will not make it. Yeah, how can you go to these body shops? Yeah, and I think it's important for the audience to know our customers are body shops, craftsmen who do the after collision repair fix. So also very male-dominated businesses, workshops at that time, also in the perception of the people, sometimes a little bit dirty and so on. And I must say I had two things. Yeah, I was young, 26, and woman. This is two points that people thought this might not work. Finally, this encouraged me also, to prove that I will not fail. And then in the body shops itself it was not that much an issue, I must say. Yeah, in some cases, or in many cases, you had to earn the trust, because as a consultant they share with you also the information, and also earn that you are capable to add value, but it was never an issue there, and I was really positively surprised. Yeah, and this is maybe I can also give to other women. Sometimes you need to try it, and then you are positively surprised.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that makes sense. And Shannon, I'll come to you next, because you've also got a vast array of experience, and just something that Christine touched on there of proving yourself, and what is your experience of that in terms of your professional experience?
Yeah, so a little background from me. I've been in sales about 19 years now. With AkzoNobel just 5 years, but I started in sales right out of undergraduate, and I went to work for a building manufacturer, which is male dominated as well. So I really haven't known anything else in my career other than these type of industries. But I've held different roles throughout the years. It was always important for me. I wanted to eventually get into global sales. So I earned my master's, and then I went into global sales. And I'll never forget when I had started, after I got the job I really wanted, and I had some hard time with team members, and they kept saying, well, you need to earn your stripes. And I thought, how ridiculous is that? Like, I did the interview. I have it. I'll learn the job. I have the skills, but always saying, oh, earn your stripes, earn your this. And that's always stuck with me.
Yeah. And what did that mean?
Well, it was funny, because we'd have other colleagues who came into the industry, right? And they weren't told that, but I think because I was young, I think there was a gender bias, and they'd say, oh, well, they're just tougher on you because you haven't earned your stripes yet. And that just really stuck with me, that as I become a leader and I have teams, I'm never going to do that to a new person on the team.
Yeah, definitely. And that's an interesting point as well, because I know that I've experienced something similar as well in my own career. And you that first time it happens to you, you come away and think, oh, I wished I had something to say. I wished I'd have said something different. And just a question back to you there of, how do you manage that now, or how would you help a younger team member maybe navigate that happening for the first time? Because I think we all like to think we don't live in a sort of a gender bias society anymore, but it does still happen, and it's kind of why we're all still here having this conversation. So yeah, do you have any thoughts on that?
I just think with my team members in particular, I just try to encourage them. Everyone's learning every day. And for me, when we hear this, at least with paint, we hear this a lot, right? Oh, paint's so different, but it really isn't. And to me, sales, it could be anything that you're selling. It's the same process. Distribution's very similar within industries. And I think we just trust our people, and you encourage them.
Yeah, I love that. And Karen, I need to come to you now, because Shannon, you gave me the perfect bridge for you to share your experience, and your career background is incredible, and how you came to be in the position that you're in now. And I'd love you to sort of share that as well. And I've got another question lined up already.
Okay, so I've been in the automotive industry for 18 years, of which 7 has been with AkzoNobel as a regional sales manager. Sales, automotive was never ever a consideration for me. How I got into it was I used to be in the music industry, and that was to do with business management. So that did involve an awful lot of traveling, being able to do things that literally in a million years I've never thought I'd be able to do. But unfortunately, I became quite unwell. I had a breakdown and had to take a year out of my career. And then what that did for me was just to reevaluate my where I was as a person, where I wanted to be. And it was just by chance an opportunity came up. And I thought, well, I like dealing with people. I enjoy the whole challenge of trying something else, something a little bit different. So that's really how I got into this industry. And then the perfect opportunity happened for me in 2015 was when AkzoNobel advertised a regional sales manager. And for me, that was like the defining moment of, wow, this is really where I need to be. This is what I want to do.
Great. And I know that you shared previously on a different call, but what made you take that step in applying for that position of this role at AkzoNobel?
I think my strengths working in distribution gave me a good platform for how the accident repair industry worked. It also, I was very aware that it was predominantly male. And with the Akzo one, it was about actually I want to be part of a team. But I do feel that had my predecessor not been a woman, I may not have actually gone for it.
Yeah, interesting. I do think that is really interesting, and it comes back to having role models and the importance of that. And Christina, I'd like to come to you and get your thoughts and opinions on role models that you've had throughout your career, and how the difference that's made to you of being able to navigate this world of the commercial world.
Look, absolute role models are important. I have to admit, I did not really have female role models because there were simply not other women present at that time. But I had really different male colleagues who really also gave me the confidence or back up the confidence that I can do it. Yeah, maybe more than I didn't think about that I can do certain things. Yeah, and they saw more in me than maybe I saw it by myself. And I think it's you can call it role model or but it needs to be somebody who also believes in you and who is there also even to share the things where you fail. Yeah, because I think this is also important to have a sparring partner and to discuss.
Definitely, I would agree with that. And this leads me on nicely to that sort of that first perception and that feeling of having to be hard-nosed to face a cutthroat environment and not being able to show your emotions. And well, I suppose question to everybody, do you think that is still true in today's world? And I know, because I know the three of you don't live by this notion, but how did you get to that point? Or Shannon, how did you overcome that feeling of first starting out your career of thinking, do I need to act in a certain way or a different way to be successful?
Mm-hmm. And I think especially now, at least I see with our customers and in sales, our customers are looking for solutions. So it's more of a solutions-based business rather than, hey, I'm going to go sell this. I found over the years just being transparent, being authentic to who I am. If you don't know something, you say I don't know, and you find the answer. But I think that misconception it is pretty prevalent. And even when I talk to people, I say, oh no, it's not like that. Like, we work in a team, we're a team-based environment, and everyone's really looking out for each other.
And I think my own experience in sales, there's so much more than the name suggests. For me, sales is about really listening and understanding your customer, your prospect, and actually understanding their needs.
Definitely.
And it is helping to source ultimately what genuinely what they need.
Yeah, I agree. And I completely second Christine as well with the sponsor, having an ally, having someone who can help you. I know with my career, been very fortunate to have strong allies who have really helped, have pushed me, mentored me and helped me as I've moved through my career.
Yeah, definitely. And Christine, I know you mentioned previously as well about like the importance of passion for your work as well, and just if you wanted to share anything on that before I encourage the audience to ask questions in the chat or even put their video on and get involved in the conversation. We would love to hear from you and hear your thoughts on any of these talking points too.
Yeah, I believe, or at least, yeah, what guided me all the years, yeah, that I had, and still have, yeah, for every job, I have really the passion. I like what I do, and then you can also overcome obstacles, or you are able to do things that you never thought that you can do it. Yeah, and I believe it's really important also for young women, but also young men, that they find a job that they would like or they like to do, and they are passionate about it. Yeah, and I completely agree to Karen, and maybe this is also a little bit a part of the answer to this first myth. I think, especially in the automotive industry, or at least what I experience, is not about now making a deal and then never seeing this customer again. Yeah, it's about the partnership. It's about finding good solutions together. And I believe in this case, yeah, it's not a hard-nosed or cutthroat environment. Yeah, it's of course professional. We all need to earn money or save money, but at the end it's also to bring both business further. And I believe in this environment, both parties can play a role, men and women.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And Karen, you've been so candid at sharing sort of your journey into sales and your like sharing obviously your struggles with mental health and being able to talk about that to your team and coming to work and being your true self of knowing what your experience was prior to starting this position. Do you think that helped build your relationships with your team and being able to be successful because you could be honest?
Yes. I think for me, the sales team have been so supportive. Yes, I do have my struggles, but ultimately, I feel that I've achieved an awful lot. I feel that being in the position I am now, so from 20 years ago to where I am now, I'm really, really proud of my achievement. And I can only do that with stepping out my comfort zone. I can only do that by sharing my own experience and actually having the empathy and understanding, talking to people, because everybody has a story. And I think the sales team and the technical team that we have in the UK, yes, I am the only female, but I'm very proud of that, very proud. And I've learned so much. And actually, one of my friends many, many years ago had always said to me, never stop learning or growing as a person. And that has probably stuck with me for such a long time, even through my struggles. So I think from my point of view, being part of a sales team, that's where you win together. That's where you become as one.
Definitely, yeah. I think, yeah, absolutely couldn't agree more with that. And I don't see any questions in the chat, but please feel free to add anything if there is anything that you want us to touch on and talk about. And Shannon, I want to ask you a question here, and we're sort of moving into sort of going into starting to look at perception too here, but also handling those like those prejudices and those biases, especially when it comes to travel and being away from home and sort of navigating and managing various different things. And just if you've got anything that you want to talk about here and share, and based on that what Karen said about team.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with sales, there is travel, right? At least I know in my role, I don't hear it that much anymore. But when I first had my daughter, I remember I came back from maternity leave, and I would always get the question when I had to travel. It'd be like, "Well, who's watching your child?" And then I'd say, "Oh, her dad." And just that perception of, "Oh, if you're not at home, like, how's everything functioning?" And I think now, especially this day and age, there's a lot of dual income families, and for us, in my particular situation, my partner and I, we both work, and it's just time management. We manage expectations, and it's just working through that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to paint a bit of a bleak picture here to sort of set the scene for when we go into scenario 2, or sort of that second perception around we did some internal research here at AkzoNobel last year during sort of part of the pandemic, and this is sort of where this workshop has been built from. And I think that perception in sales that maybe fixed salaries are lower than other positions because it's a highly incentivized type job, and you have a high stress environment. There's a lot of different factors that can make an impact on whether you meet those sales or not, whether that be raw materials or anything that's going on in the macroeconomic environment. And I guess that perception of, well, it's quite a high risk job for maybe quite little reward. And how do you feel about that? Because that's from research that we had from internally and from women within our own organization who were potentially fearful of moving into a commercial role because of these perceptions of, well, there's limited support, I'm traveling on my own, I've got to hit these massive targets, and then what happens if I don't, and all of this external sort of noise. And you're all in commercial roles and sales, and what is your experience of that? And I'd like to really focus on the support piece here, and that importance of like networks maybe. Christine, I'll come to you.
Yeah, look, I thought because I was heading now the last year also the DACH sales team, and I really thought I was quite happy, yeah, to have now really these sales figures, yeah, because it also or this strong connection to your performance, and I believe. This is also good orientation. Sometimes, for example, when you're in other areas, yeah, it's a little bit blurry. Yeah, what benefit you add to the whole overall thing. But in sales, you are really in the heart of everything, and you can prove. Yeah, I have this turnover. I have this success. Yeah, so interesting was. This morning in the car, I heard a kind of study done that companies who would pay and emphasize too much on these performance related salaries, they could cause really also kind of aggression between people, and it fits also pretty much to this first meet that we had, that is it a hard nose. I think it's also the task of the company to find here a good balance, to on one hand it needs to be challenging, but on the other hand, it needs also to be balanced for the customer, but also for internal.
Yeah, definitely. I absolutely agree with that. And I suppose, I know none of you joined these positions during the pandemic and during a lockdown, but can you share your reality? What is it like for you, Karen? You spend a lot of time traveling. You've got a great team in the UK, but actually you spend a lot of time alone, and what is that like, and how do you sort of keep those relationships fostered and work on that with your team, and yeah, how do you do it?
So my role, I am field based. So yes, there's me, my car, my phone, and my laptop, and there is an awful lot of travelling on the road, especially if you're getting stuck in traffic. But for me, I know that the team that we have in the UK, that I could pick up the phone, I could run through things with them, any situations, there's any solutions that need to be solved. So whilst it can appear to be quite lonely, I think what you give back is what you receive. So again, going back to being part of a team, we all have our strengths and we draw from our strengths. And I think for me, that with something I pick up that Christine said about some of the challenges, my challenges have predominantly been with external source, not internally. And I think, again, because we all understand the whole industry, with the body shop world in particular, some of the challenges I've had to overcome. So knowing, for me, whilst I'm out doing my role, I have got at any point in time to pick up the phone and to talk to one of my colleagues. Because it is, I suppose, you know, that patter, that male patter, is sometimes I question myself thinking, actually, should I be thinking like that, or can I say that? And for me, it just reaffirms again that actually how I'm feeling and what I want to say is actually okay.
Yeah, and this comes back down to I guess a confidence thing as well, of building your confidence, and that takes time and to feel comfortable in the role that you're doing. And Shannon, I'd like to ask you maybe something around confidence and developing your own skills and playing to them in a way that is maybe different to other people that you work with.
Yeah, I mean, I guess with my team, because I was given so many opportunities, and I've had sponsors along the way with my team, I try to do the same thing. I try to find where they want to go within the organization and develop those skills to help them get there, whether it's training, whether it's working across different business units, if it's special projects, just trying to help them with that. But to one thing, Lucy, what Karen said about COVID, I completely agree with that as well. And I do think there were some opportunities, in my opinion, that came out of COVID. Just the virtual meetings, I think that's changed the landscape of how we work now. And I think for women in particular, I think COVID helped women as well, because when all these children were on lockdown and home, it became a normal thing that you'd be on these calls and it'd be like a male counterpart. You'd just see a little kid running in the background. It kind of normalized things. So yeah, I think that helped too with work-life balance.
Yeah, definitely. And sort of that lockdown propelled sort of some of the things that maybe organizations were already starting to do. And Christine, I've got a question for you here, of just coming back to support and confidence. Statistically speaking, men don't generally ask for help, or they don't really like asking for help, and that's possibly a cultural, societal expectation. And you said something quite at the beginning of this session of when you were faced with those criticisms of you couldn't do that role for maybe being a young woman, and you felt like you had something to prove. How did you then navigate asking for help and being able to manage that internal conversation with yourself of wanting to prove those people wrong, but also being confident enough to ask for help when you needed it, and your experience of that and sort of having that internal conversation?
Okay, at first I was smiling because I think everybody in the audience recognize the discussion when you, today with navigations it's not like this, but in the past, then women would have asked in the car for the way, men would try. But this is now a gender bias. No. Look, but maybe this is also my personality. I really would have tried it first by myself. To navigate. I would have also watched a lot what others doing. So also when they are in the same situation. But then, of course, you have these sponsors or allies, and I think this is then really a matter of trust. That you really share then what the emotions and of course also then really this weakness. And I believe this is really important, and it became better. So either I'm more confident to do this, or also the industry or in general the workplace changed. And you see a lot of initiatives for high performing teams, like that you share emotions, weakness, because only then a team can really grow, help each other, and so on. And I believe that really women in a team can be also a little bit the accelerator when they allow themselves. And it's also for men, of course, quite some surprising, and they also sometimes don't know how to act. When you share your emotion, my colleagues at least got hopefully used to this one. So.
Yeah, I think that's a great point of when you allow yourself to share that vulnerable side and that emotional side. I know that I've had colleagues in the past. I love to cry. I cry probably once a week, whether it be good or bad. And if somebody catches you off guard and that happens, the fear in my male colleagues' eyes of when I start crying always does make me laugh. But I think that's a great point, Christine, of allowing yourself to share that vulnerable side, and it brings then an inclusivity to the rest of your team. And I'm conscious we've only got sort of 15 minutes left. I keep looking at the time. And I don't see that we've still got not any questions, but please, again, if you do have anything, either unmute yourself, come on the camera, join in the conversation. We would love it. But sort of going into the final part of our conversation, and I'd like to focus here sort of on striving for a more gender balanced workforce. And I definitely think we're making good progress. But it always strikes me that we still have these events. We're on this webinar to talk about our experience and to hopefully help others feel the way that we do, and to have that collective conversation. But and Shannon, I'll come to you for this question first. What do you think are the opportunities out there for women in the world of work now, and especially taking on that more commercial role and having the confidence to do it when there's the very famous statistic of, if there's a job description out there, women are less likely to apply unless they can tick 100% of those criteria, and men naturally are more confident. And they will think, well, I can either learn it, or does it really matter? And they'll apply for it anyway. And so just touch on that really.
Sorry, Shannon.
No, go ahead, Karen. Go ahead.
It's an interesting one. I do think that maybe this is where perhaps schools need to be more interactive in terms of career opportunities, because absolutely, and rightly so. And I mean, I love sport. I love watching it. And I think that the definitive moment for me this year in particular was the women's football team. And many years ago, I played football for my junior school. I was the only girl in a boys' team. But back then, there really wasn't anything available. There wasn't anything. So I think that with what's happened this summer with the England team, what it does show is about women coming together as a team, and all those young kids, whether in boys or girls, aspiring to become one of their heroes. And I think that with the work side of it, I think that maybe there should be some changes and actually interaction with schools now of actually taking them to a different level as to what the opportunities are and what you can achieve.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's important.
Yeah, and I think for women in particular, right now, it's a great time to be with organizations. I think organizations are recognizing that they need to reflect in their personnel the communities they serve, and by doing that, we're getting a more diverse organization, different ideas, and I think more diversity means more productivity.
Absolutely. And I can see we've got a guest
Yes,
with the video on.
Hello, Lucy. Hi, ladies. Thank you very
Hello.
much for all these inspiring discussions. It's really amazing to be here. I'm proud of all of you.
Oh,
One point that I really wanted to share is that because of my background, I have been in the position to be minority in many levels. And then I understand that this is doing something with you. When you are in minority, automatically you are prone not to be able to provide or share your full capability. So what the leaders of the company can do to help women that are automatically considered a minority is to give them more support and give them the backup to let them to have the wing for flying.
Amazing. I love that. And that's, you've almost preempted one of my questions here, because, and this, you've answered it perfectly, of, and knowing what you know now, what advice would you want to give leaders in being able to support women or diverse groups of people to be able to be successful? And I think you've just answered
What
that.
really helped me to feel included in the teams that I'm working with, and some of you already know me very closely, so it is that having an impact give you the power. So as soon as you start to feel and see the impact that your activities or what you are doing, your ideas is providing to the whole team, then you feel empowered. So make sure that this is going back to the people who are in the minority. Because if they feel that they are not heard or nobody cares, they are not automatically they are stepping back.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing. I think that's something we can all take with us in our daily lives when we have meetings with different people, and how do we make people feel empowered and included in what we're doing. Yeah,
And
thank you.
you cannot feel that till the time that you are not in the minority position, because coming from your background or your history of working for the company or your gender or your experience, if you are coming from a complete different environment and you want to contribute to the whole team, and then it is really difficult, I would say, but it is possible. And what is making it easier is the support of the leaders.
Absolutely, I agree. I definitely agree with that. And an open question again. Thank you so much for joining in our conversation. But Christine, maybe this one for you, of what else do you think could be done to support women in the workplace and in sales? And this can be about anything. This is just that organizations could do to to sort of bridge that gender imbalance?
Look, I think Shannon touched it also a little bit, and I think we also touched it when we had earlier our preparation. I believe it's important to also show to women, for example, that it's really working, that you can balance family and kids. At that time when I decided for my first son, it was almost feeling like I make a decision between I'm in and out. It's now proven that it's not like this. I have in the meantime 3 sons and 1 husband, so also only men at home, and you also grow in these things. And I believe many people don't ask how this work and what works well, what works less well. And I think it's good also to share here, and of course also to support working models. For example, for me, it was no problem to work then in the evening when everybody is sleeping. But I would like to have, for example, these 2 hours to go to this kindergarten event and so on. And then the freedom, to really be also flexible, of course, without having any impact then on the output. I believe this helps. But interesting is also that our society moves now in general to this direction, because I see now also a lot of men going for paternity leave and so on. So it's changing, but especially young women, it's good to take away the fear that they are with this one, that they might make a decision and can't get rid afterwards of this.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point. I can personally relate to that that feeling as well, Christine, that you shared, of whether if you make that decision, you're in or out of a career, and how do you balance it. And Shannon, I want to stay on this topic for our last couple of minutes actually, because and you also shared something in our previous discussion around how you manage that teamwork with your partner at home, and that equality, and how you manage that, and just to continue on that topic if possible.
Definitely. I'm a big believer that equality starts at home. I mentioned before, my husband, he has a career as well, but we've each supported each other. We've moved quite a few times in the United States because of my career, and he supported me with that as I've grown. And then, for example, about a year ago, because of his career, we moved to Florida. And I've got to say one thing with organizations, and AkzoNobel in particular, it's just recognizing the flexibility in the situation that there's dual incomes now. I'm very fortunate that AkzoNobel was okay with the fact that I left where our North American headquarters is to go to Florida, but that's the situation. And I think I know with my team as well, it's recognizing the flexibility, recognizing there's a work-life balance, and then also we have situations now where there's 2 members in the family who have careers and who are driven, and we have to support that, and we have to be open and support it with our teams.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. And I know we've not got much time left, but I just want to keep it back open to other people sharing their thoughts and ideas, whether that be in the chat or on the video. But just any parting thoughts. I mean, you have all massively inspired me, and I've thoroughly enjoyed working with you all on planning this and hearing your stories and just learning more. But if there's any parting thoughts. I know we've got somebody else who's just joined on video. Hello.
Hi, and I didn't want to, I came in late, so I just didn't want to just come onto the screen and disturb everybody. I've just loved all the chat and what I've been listening to. And my contributions is, you set your boundaries, and you just, when you've got that work-life balance, and, don't be afraid to let go of guilt. if you want to walk out of that room or your office at 4 o'clock because you've got kindergarten or you've got other, obviously family commitments, then don't be that person that sits there saying, I've got to stay here because I've got my friend or colleague at the side of me that's going to still be here till 6 o'clock in the evening. And I think around, my passion around mental well-being and around there, and it's just have that, check in on yourself and make sure that work-life balance, and I've heard some really good things about having, obviously equal partner at home. I've got that. My husband cooks, he cleans, and I think it's really, really important. So, and but I wish I'd have joined this group earlier. So
that's such good advice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And actually, that final point on boundaries are so important. And I'm definitely still quite flexible on my boundaries and trying to come back to what they are. So if anyone's got any great advice on setting those boundaries and your sort of non-negotiables and knowing who you are to be able to be the best version of yourself, feel free to share in our last minute, because I'll be making some notes.
You've just set your own. You look at yourself individually, and they're just healthy boundaries. And you know what? Self-care is not selfish. You've always remember that when you look at yourself and what you need, that me time. Where do we start? I've been in the private sector. Now I'm running my own business. But there's times when we have to go, actually, let's look at those boundaries. And they're there. Sometimes we feel uncomfortable wanting to go and say, actually, that's going to be a boundary for me. But just push that and do it. Because once you start doing it and they're there, and then you start to have some of that me time, and then that work-life balance gets really more in tune, and obviously the work-related stress then starts to develop away. It's a really, really good feeling. So and if anybody wants to, just do a one-to-one, then look at that. Definitely.
Great. Thank you.
Great advice.
Yeah, and I would like to connect to let go the guilt. Yeah, I think this is really, it's for the job, but it's also at home. Yeah, I think sometimes maybe this is also in the nature sometimes that we will feel guilty for a lot of things, but it's really time to let go the guilt and be confident and be ourselves.
Always be yourself, and you know what, I've been through it all. I did an equality drive in 2017. I had my mental decline in 2017, so I've gone through quite to get to. So I sit here to tell you guys today is, that guilt, you let that balloon go and you let it go. That's how I look at it. You've got a bag of guilt, you put it all in a balloon basket and you just let that road go.
I love it. What a great analogy. Well, thank you everybody for joining and being part of our session. I'm conscious of the time, and I don't know if we automatically get chucked out of the meeting, so I don't want to end abruptly, but just thank you everybody for listening, for joining. Shannon, Christine, Karen, thank you so much for being the main part of this panel and sharing your insights and experience. It has been amazing, and I hope everybody has found it as insightful and inspiring as I have. And thank you to you all who've shared on the screen and shared your own experience and thoughts. Much appreciated.
And a big thank you to you, Lucy, as well. Really, you've made it a lot easier.
Thank you.